fellow investors. Welcome to another episode of Ritter On Real Estate. We're excited to have a repeat guest back today. Miss Veena Jetti is joining us. Veena was first on episode 122 back in December of 22 and had a fantastic episode. Veena is a good friend. She is just super knowledgeable and she's got an incredible wealth of knowledge. And so really excited to dig in today with her on a couple different topics. I'd say if you want to check out that first episode, like I said, 122, we covered a lot of the, why is she investing in real estate and how is she doing it and how is she looking at deals and how is she adjusting to the current market conditions, which weren't so different back in December. So if you want to check that out, we'll link that episode right below. But today with Veena, we're going to take a different approach. And Veena has also built an incredible thought leadership platform. And what we're going to talk about is, a little bit of the why and how you do that, and why as somebody who wants to raise capital and wants to be a deal sponsor, why this piece of it is so critical. And so with that, we got to start at the top though, Veena, for those that haven't heard you before, tell us a little bit more about who you are and how you got to where you are today.
Yes, I love it. I'm really excited for this episode. I think it's going to be really good.
I
So I'm Veena Jetti. I am the founder of a company called Vive Funds. We are large multifamily owner operators. And this quarter, we're finally crossing the $1 billion mark in transaction volume. I feel like I was stuck at like 900 and change for the last 6 months. And so now we have 2 deals that we're going to be closing, which will take us well over the $1 billion mark.
Fantastic.
So I'm excited about that. Yes. And I, like you said, I run a thought leadership platform. It's called Mastering Multifamily with Veena Jetti on Facebook. It's like a community, a Facebook community, really more so than thought leadership, but I love it. It's absolutely my favorite thing I do in my day. And also multifamily. So.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. So when you mentioned the billion, right, you're getting in the 3 comma club. And I don't know if you ever watched the show Silicon Valley back in the
I
day, but
haven't. I've seen like one
we
episode.
totally lost on you, but there's a billionaire on there who was quite funny. And it reminded me of that. So anybody that's seen that show will understand the reference, but you're going to be in the 3 comma club. So
3 comma.
congratulations. That is
Thank you.
it's really an incredible achievement. You've grown
Thank
that
you.
over, how many years did it take you to get from when you started to $1 billion?
I mean, I basically started from the time I was like 3. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I left
Okay.
corporate America in 2012, though.
Gotcha. Okay. So about 10 years. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's an incredible growth story. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And, I'm sure that all the work that you've done, positioning yourself as a thought leader, a speaker, providing education to others, going to conferences and things, it plays a big part in your ability to get to $1 billion in assets, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think I wish I would have done it sooner, but I say that about everything that ends up being successful for me. I'm like, oh, I wish I would have started doing that 10 years ago. But I didn't know what I didn't know. And now I'm about to cross that $1 billion mark. Most of it was actually before I had established any kind of thought leadership or anything like that. That's actually been like more of a recent endeavor. However, it has exponentially grown my business year over year. So in 2020, we closed on 1 deal that was 80 million. In 2021, we closed on 2, which were 160 million. And then last year we closed, we had a 3rd deal under contract, but, fell out of escrow. You know how this goes every now and then. But had we closed on that, we would have been right just over 220 million in purchases for last year. And so my growth has been exponential, not linear, since starting a thought leadership platform. And also, more importantly, I get to move to kind of what I think is the next big goal for me or phase in my life, which is impacting other people and helping other people build what I built, hopefully with like a shortcut here and there.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So let's talk more about the why, because like you said, it was late in your career. You came to
Yeah.
this. Why is it so important that if you're someone who wants to be in the position that you are, that you are a thought leader, and maybe even define for us, like, what is a thought leader?
I don't know exactly what a thought leader is. I think it's just someone who has a lot of opinions, really.
Well,
So
I think that works for you.
it really works out for me. You know, I think it's really important. And what I'll say is when I first started raising capital for our deals and we were buying multifamily, I had to go and call every single person that I had any kind of relationship with and like beg them to invest in our deals. Now, because I have these attraction platforms, investors find me. You know, I've had family offices that have invested with us because they've heard us on a podcast, me on a podcast somewhere, or they've heard
Mhm.
me speak on a stage, or they've seen my Facebook group, or someone in my community said, "Oh, this is a really great community. You should join it." And so being able to attract your client, your investor, your customer, you know, this is applicable for any business, not just real estate. It's really important that you have somewhere for them to go and to congregate and to learn and to grow. And so that's what I think is important about having a space for this. And if you're not going to do the work of starting it, then you should aim to be a leader in a community that resonates with your messaging.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. And I'll take note that you mentioned you've had family offices invest with you,
Um,
right? Which
yeah.
for folks that don't define the definition of a family office is typically about $100 million or more in net worth. And so it's not that it's just the, typical investor that you're
Yeah.
is discovering you through this process. It's even these sophisticated family offices and others who I assume are investing, pretty sizable amounts of money. So it's not
Mhm.
just, folks like me out there listening to your podcast. There's big, important people out there in the world that are able to access these podcasts and see you on
Yeah.
stage and do all these things. So the why I think is clear, and I love how you said that, like you need to attract, you're attracting people to you.
Mhm.
You're putting out content that is now, like you said, you're making phone calls, right? And
Yes.
you can only make so many phone calls in a day,
Right.
right? But with like a podcast, for example, and this is why I love podcasting because you can impact thousands of people through
Mhm.
one message. And while I'm sleeping, there can be people in Europe or other countries that are
Listening.
listening to this, and
Yep.
you're impacting their lives. And so the ability to have these one to many relationships, right? And
Yep.
create that and bring that in is pretty incredible. So as you went to, like you said, and the why at the end of the day, like you said, it's grown your business exponentially
Yeah.
in doing this, right? So let's talk more about what you're doing. Let's talk more
Yeah.
about, okay, you've got this title now. Maybe I've given you or whatever, thought leader, right?
Yeah, I'm now a thought leader.
That you're now a thought leader. But let's talk about what you're actually doing. You mentioned a Facebook group. Maybe you want to start there, and then let's go into some of the other things that you're doing that kind of makes up this this body of
Yeah.
work.
So just one thing. I it has grown my business inherently, but really the thing that I think it's accomplishing for me now is I'm able to help other people do what I've done. And for me, like that impact feels very fulfilling and rewarding at this point in my career because I feel like I've checked off a lot of the boxes that I was aiming for. And, I'm going to still keep doing multifamily. I love it. I'm not going
Mhm,
away from it. But now I can help someone else do their first deal because, people help us along the way, right? Like we all help each other. And I want to be that for somebody else. And
mhm,
so I started a Facebook community. And my initial thought, I actually didn't know what I was doing. I still don't really know what I'm doing, to be completely frank. But I'm learning what's working and what's not working because I have a very clear vision of what I want it to be. So I want it to be an area where people who have never done a deal before, or people that have done 100 million or 200 million or $500 million in deals can come together and feel safe and comfortable, just like learning and teaching each other and giving each like similar to what we do when we're at conferences and we're in person, right? We're talking about strategy, we're talking about our families, we're talking about our mindsets. All of that is something that I want access to 24/7. And so that was kind of the thought behind establishing the Facebook community. Now, in there are a lot of people, like I said, if you can't go through all of the work to establish a community of your own, be a leader in someone else's community, you know, contribute, help other people in the community. And someone like me who sees that, you know, I elevate those people because I want those people around me. That's the energy I want around me.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we do in our group, and, you know, there's so many ways to do this. And like I said, I'm certainly not an expert. So I'm, you know, trying different things to see what's working. But what I've done is I do all of my Zoom calls in my group are free. All of them. Anybody can join them. My group is free to join. Anybody can join it. Anyone can be on any of my calls. As long as you're the first 100 people, because that's my Zoom limit. So after 100, you're just locked out. But people will show up early. They'll get in the group and they'll come to the calls. And then we'll go through whatever topic we've decided for that day. So for example, like we did one, which is like understanding the T12. And like we went through the entire T12, or just vocab, right? Like I did one for an entire Zoom on just vocabulary, because we have so many weird words that we use in multifamily, like NOI and debt service and investor instead of a private money lender. Like we have all these like nuanced ways of speaking.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, like I went through all of that and I went through like the nitty gritty of it. And it's so much fun to see people who come in like totally overwhelmed. And then by the next call, they're like, I already know what that is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud. Like I'm like the proud mama bear.
Yeah. I love, you know, the things I'm taking away as you're talking. If you think about why I think you've been so successful, are two things. One is, you mentioned it at the beginning, you know, you're really approaching this from a place of service. You're approaching this from a place of wanting to give back, which I think people can easily see through that, right? I think people can easily see through the intention of why you're doing it. I mean, you probably have. I've definitely been on those calls or masterminds or things where it's like, oh, this is just a sales pitch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're approaching it from the right place to start with. And then I think you're you know, you're kind of giving back, I guess, that, how do I say this? You're helping people get over that initial barrier that is there's such a high barrier, I think, to getting into commercial real estate, and the jargon is what it is, but it is a high barrier if you don't have any idea what people are talking about, right? Because you and I could probably have a conversation in acronyms and different words, and most people wouldn't understand what's going on. So there's that, teaching people how to do these things. But I think, to me, it's, you're coming at it from the right way. And so I think it's important for people to take that away. Like if you're going to do this, make sure your mission and your purpose for doing it is coming from the right place, because I think people, you know, my whole point is people, I think, will see through that. And so you started the Facebook group. The Facebook group is really your way of giving back and helping people get to where you are. And I love the idea of, shortcutting. Like, I'm sure you've made mistakes. As good as you are, I'm sure you've made mistakes along the way, right?
I made a mistake like an hour ago, I think. Like I make mistakes all the live long day.
Yeah. But you're humble enough to I think, admit that and teach people how to avoid those, right? And I think that's really important. Talk a little bit about the conferences and the speaking there. And is that because that started earlier, is that coming from the same place? Is there a different strategy around that? Why, like, tell us why, you know, why you're speaking at all the conferences, for lack of a
well, I just like talking a lot, and this is like a whole captive audience. Just listen to me talk. It's like the perfect thing for me, right? No, but really, I started speaking on stages several years ago and podcasts several years ago, and I'm a people person. I know it's shocking. I know you probably don't even know that I'm a total extrovert and just like being around people. And, you know, these are conferences I was going to anyway. And I had people start asking me to speak on stages, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll try it. And it turns out I really love public speaking. I know it makes me like a total psychopath, because like most people are like, okay, the thought of public speaking gives them hives. Like even just saying it, like there are people whose skin is crawling right now.
I mean, more like, feared more than death, right?
Yes, which is so funny, because I like dream about the next speech I'm going to give because I want to be better at it and I want to like deliver more value. And it's actually just now, especially since I started the Facebook community, it's weird because it's kind of in the last year and a half morphed into this space for me to be able to deliver more value and more impact to people. And I think it's made me a better speaker because of it. Because initially when I started, I didn't really know what to say. I didn't know what would be engaging.
Sure.
Have you ever like spoken on a stage where you've like made a joke or asked a question and the audience is just silent and you're like, oh gosh, just like stick a
Never
rusty
happens to me. Nope.
because you're just so funny. That's why you're so
I mean,
charming. Not all of
you
us have the
you
Ritter
said it,
charm.
not me.
Not all of us have that charm naturally.
But
And
no,
some of us have to work for
100%. I know what you're talking about. So the Facebook group, it sounds like, is giving you have a direct contact to the people to know what they want to hear about, and you're able to
it.
tailor your
Yeah.
message.
Well, that and now something really cool started happening where the community now will come to the conferences that I speak at. So like I already have my friends there and
I
I'm like,
love it.
oh, I recognize all of these people because we just did like 75 hours of Zooms in the last 3 days.
Mhm.
And then we can have like, so I'm speaking in Vegas next week, and I think like 50 or 60 people from my community are going to be there. And then we have a meetup planned the night before. So we're all going to get together and like, just hang out, nothing like serious or buttoned up. But it's just going to be a really good time for us to be able to connect as a community and get to know each other as a community. And so that's what I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I love that. So it's created this kind of flywheel effect where one is feeding off the
Yes,
other, and you've
totally.
created this yeah, you're providing more valuable content and attracting folks. And yeah, I think it's an incredible little ecosystem that you've
It
developed
is.
here. And so
It is.
I guess for folks that want to, going back to the conference piece, for folks
Yeah.
that you're in high demand, you're speaking at a lot of conferences.
Mhm.
Probably wasn't that way at one point. Everybody has
No.
to start somewhere,
Yeah,
even
no.
you. So as for somebody who is wanting to get out there and wanting to start to put themselves into the spotlight, what tips do you have for that person?
First and foremost, have a professional brand established. Even if you don't have a business, like establish a brand. It's not that hard. It's really easy to do. That's actually one of the courses I put out into my community. I just released it like 2 days ago, but it's building a brand. And this is all the stuff that you and I had to do from scratch where nobody just handed us everything, right?
Mhm.
But it's like, how do you choose your name? How do you choose your logo? What is the color palette you should use? Like, what is it conveying about you? How do you build a resume? What about a one sheet, a company bio? Like, all of these things go toward your credibility, right? It's like your credentials, your credibility.
Absolutely.
You can do all of those things for free on PowerPoint, on Canva, you could probably even do it in Word actually, but the point is be purposeful about it. So that's like the first and foremost. Then start doing outreach. Like I have so many times where people ask me, hey, do you know anybody else that would be really great at this topic or that topic? And I'm like, oh yeah, let me think through my Rolodex. But if you haven't told me that you want to speak, then I can't just pull you up top of mind. I will only go to the people that I know I've spoken with before, that I've heard speak before.
Yep.
So tell people what you're trying to do, what you want to do. And it's scary and it's hard. And listen, like when I first started speaking, like I think I had to beg people to let me speak on their stages, right? Like nobody cared what I had to say, but I did it anyway. And that's where you practice, right? Like your first few are like practicing, getting better, understanding how to deliver things, what audiences want, how to engage with them. After that, what happened, at least for me, is I got to a stage that was big enough and I always practiced beforehand. Before going on stage, I never was like, I'm gonna wing it. Well, early on, I was like, I'm gonna wing it. Then I
Yeah.
started taking it seriously and I started practicing. So I'd show up early the day I was speaking and I would get on the stage while AV and everybody's setting up still. I'd get on the stage and I'd say the speech out loud, or generally what I'm gonna say, and I'd like understand the feel of the stage. Because I'm also like so clumsy that I'm going to be that person that's going to fall on my face like in heels on a stage. So I have to like get comfortable ahead of time. And I still do that on big stages that I speak on. I show up early and I practice before anybody's even there. But I think outreach, making it known, And a lot of times people are looking for unique and dynamic speakers.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think those are fantastic tips. And I think at the end of the day, you just have to put yourself out there, right?
Yeah,
And I think that's really difficult
it is.
for people to do, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of a great segue into my next point, which I wanted to talk about the mindset around this, right?
Yeah.
Because it's scary to get out there. I mean, we just talked about public speaking, right?
Yeah.
Scarier than death. The idea of putting yourself out there and doing this, what talk to me about the mindset shift that you had to go through to be confident enough to get out and do that.
Look, imposter syndrome is real, right? And I would be lying if I said I've never had that. Like sometimes even now I speak on stages. Like I listened to one of my recordings from like a couple years ago where I spoke on a stage. It was a big stage and I can hear my voice shaking in it, right? Like, but I can hear it because I know I was nervous. I remember being nervous about it. And when other people hear it, they don't hear that, right? So a lot of times it's just what's in our head.
Yeah.
And showing up. So do you know who Simon Sinek is?
Oh yeah.
I am obsessed with him. Okay. He's
Yeah,
like
he's
an
great.
incredible speaker. He's a true thought leader. Like I listen to his content. I just bought one of his courses to improve my ability to convey like storytelling and messages. Right. And
Mhm.
so I bought his course, and in it, he said, when he shows up, he says, I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve the audience. And I was like, and he said he says it out loud before he speaks. And I was like, wow, that feels life changing to me. And I don't know why it does,
Mhm.
but sometimes just saying it out loud and acknowledging the fear
Yeah.
is enough to kind of put you over the hump. You just have to get through that speech. And the reality is
Absolutely.
everybody understands, like if you mess up, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I did a speech last week. I did a keynote, and I randomly decided it at like toward the middle end to like go into this really like super emotional, crazy story. And I'm like, by the way, guys, this is the first time I'm telling this story. So I may cry on stage. I'm just giving you like fair warning ahead of time. And it was so well received. I'm now going to like start utilizing that because it was such a powerful story. And I didn't know if I did get through it without crying, by the way.
Yeah.
But I thought there was a significant chance I would be crying. But people understand that you're human. They want that human connection. So go into it with the idea of serving again. And this all comes from service. If you go into it with serving somebody,
Yeah.
um, it becomes less about you and less about what your feelings are going to be and more about them and what they can learn and what they can take away and what they can interpret from what you have to share.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic advice. And it's the idea that the thing similar, if I'll share my own story, and the idea of making your mission or your purpose bigger than yourself
Yes.
and bigger than your self-doubt, right?
Really.
Because that's all about you. But if
Yeah.
you can frame it as service and frame it in all that you can provide and all the value you can bring for those people, I mean, that's what's gotten me over
Totally.
imposter
Imposter
syndrome, as you
syndrome.
said,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
that idea of, well, if I don't do it, then I'm not going to help these people and I'm not
Right.
going to have the impact
Right.
and not going to improve their lives. And so I better get over myself and I better just do it.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's exactly kind of what I want. And look, I think that anybody who says they don't have any self-doubt or any kind of imposter syndrome is either a narcissist
Yeah.
or a liar or a psychopath. And I don't know which one, right? Like,
Yeah.
because even for me, I told you I'm about to cross $1 billion in transaction value. Like, I know some things about multifamily, right? But
Mhm.
I still am like, am I qualified to speak
Yeah.
about this subject? Which is crazy. If you said that to me, I'd be like, are you serious? What do you mean you're not qualified? And it's like to other people, it's just so mind blowing that you
Mhm.
would have any kind of self doubt about this.
Yeah. But I think that's another great point because I completely agree with you. Unless you're one of those one of those three things, no matter how high you climb, there's always that doubt, or there's always that comparison to someone else, or,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, we all as humans have, I think that just, most of us, that natural, I don't know why, but that, yeah, that doubt that creeps in. I mean, we have to really be, one of my mentors says, you have to be a guard at the gate of your mind,
Yeah.
right? Because it's so easy for those negative thoughts to come in, and if they do, then you're not going to fulfill your mission and your service. And so, yeah, I completely agree. Everybody has that at every level, and you hear speeches from the biggest CEOs or presidents and others, and they say those same things, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, but I think that's also helpful for folks if they can recognize that, like, it's not just you that's feeling this way. Everybody's going
Yeah.
through it, right? It's just the folks like we just talked about that are able through mindset to get over it, right?
Hmm.
Make their mission bigger than
Yep.
themselves, the ones that are
Totally.
out there that are doing it, right?
Yep.
And everybody else is sitting on the sidelines because you're afraid at the end of the day, it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
I'll tell you, I have had to speak on stages where I've had to like follow some of the most incredible speakers I've ever heard speak before. And I'm like, I have to follow this. Like, thanks a lot, organizers.
Yeah.
But the energy is just so different when you're around people who have this like abundance mindset.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I don't know if you share this philosophy, but like, at least for me, I've been thinking about, like, I feel like multifamily especially is kind of a closed off world, right? Like, a lot of people like hold their cards so close to the vest because they're like, oh, I don't want anybody to know my strategy, or I don't want that person to know this. And it's like, we all talk about having abundance mindsets, right? We
Right.
say it because
Right.
it's a thing to say. No one's like, oh yeah, no, I'm totally limited in scarcity
Right.
mindset.
Right.
But the reality is, in action, and I was guilty of this for a very long time. And someone would like ask me, oh, okay, what's your strategy on this? And I give them like enough, but not really everything.
Right.
And then I was around, I don't know if you know who Pace Morby is, but
Yeah.
he's like the best community builder. Basically, everything I
Mhm.
do, I just copy him. I'm like, okay, what's Pace doing? Okay, I'm going to do that too,
Yeah.
because he's the best at it. And I started being around him more. And, we're really good friends now. And every time I talk to him, like, all he's doing is just giving, giving, giving. And I was like, so you're just going to like give people your strategy, your templates, your LOIs, like everything? He's like, yeah, why not? I was like, I don't know why not, but it just seems like you shouldn't. And he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, if you have a scarce mindset, you shouldn't. And I was like
Right.
mind blowing, right?
Right. It's
I was
powerful.
like, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, I say I have an abundant mindset, but then I had to take like an inventory and look, have I actually been operating that way? And I hadn't been. And so the Facebook group for me, and speaking and being on podcasts, has been a way for me to improve myself too,
Mhm.
and actually practicing what I strive to be and what I say I do. And so like now, that's why my Zoom calls are free. Like, anybody can come.
Yeah.
Sure, you
Love it.
you could come, anybody can come, right? Because a rising tide lifts all boats.
That's
And
right.
when we have better operators in the space, you and I are going to do better because of it. And we have more potential partners, and investors don't get hurt. And so it's really important to me that we have the best of the best out there, because that's like true free market competition, then, is when you're competing against the best. And then also, there's the aspect that there's not really a lot of women or minorities that take these thought leader positions. And I'm like really proud of my community having so many women active, because they feel safe and they feel comfortable, and men feel safe and comfortable there. And so like for me, that's really important, just as like a social goal that I have, like in our ESG, like this is something that we really focus on. And so I just love being able to like help other women and minorities do this
Yeah.
too.
Well, I love that. I think you covered a lot there. One thing to come back on is my perspective, because the abundance mindset, I do think, is a funny
Yeah.
thing, and I do think it.
Yeah.
I think right. Everybody says they have an abundance
Right.
mindset. Here was my experience in
Mhm.
multifamily. was when I first like I didn't come from a corporate background. Like I was a
Yeah.
management consultant. I was in a totally different industry. I started out learning through podcasts and
Mm,
like podcast driven conferences,
yeah.
right? And these things. And so it was a lot of people that were just trying to get started or had just gotten started and
Yeah.
maybe were 2, 3 deals in, right? Um, in that environment, I felt that it was totally different from my other industry because I felt that abundance mindset. I think, wow, it's totally
Mm.
open. Everybody's sharing, everybody's happy to be here, everybody's helping each other. As
Oh,
I ascended, and then as I took a stint into more corporate real estate,
yeah.
uh, took a stint there and back. I mean, that's when I've noticed that the abundance mindsets or just the sharing of information has really become very closed off. And there really is
Mhm.
more of that protection and that kind of holding the cards close. And so
Yeah.
I've really noticed that shift and I've really been just thinking a lot about that and the groups I'm in and the environments that I'm in and the difference there. So it's funny. It seems like as you're beginning, maybe it's because you don't have anything to lose, right? And
Right.
everybody's trying to learn. And then you feel
Right.
like, oh, you get this thing and you can't share it anymore because
Totally.
everybody else can't be doing this, right?
Mhm.
But it was more that grassroots, like entrepreneurial feel, especially versus the corporate vibe. You know, it
Totally.
was like everything's a trade secret and you gotta, keep it all behind doors, all that. It was just these
Yeah.
different cultures that I have found really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't have the Coca-Cola recipe. I have nothing that's like that proprietary that you can't have it, right? Like, I've had new operators ask me, like, oh, well, what about like emails to send investors? I'm like, get on my email list. It's free to be on my
Yeah.
investor portal. You just use my emails. They're good templates. Adjust it for yours. And they're like, oh, I can do that. And I was like, why do you have to reinvent this wheel? What
Mhm.
I do works. Maybe it's not your style, or maybe it's not what you want to say. That's different. But if you like it, yeah, use it. I'm not like, I'm just not in that mindset anymore where I feel like I have to like protect and guard everything because, I feel confident in what we do. I know what we do. We do it really well. I want to be the
Yeah.
best at what we do. And I try for that and I aim for that. And if I can help someone else do that too, great.
I feel like you're at the other end of the curve now, right?
I
You have
am.
like I talked about those that are starting out and everybody's trying to learn and you have nothing to lose, right? And
Yeah.
then you get something and then you've come up and I feel like you're at the point now where you've accomplished a lot
Yeah.
and you feel secure with where you're at.
Yeah.
And so and I'm sure that's not all of it, but it's probably part of it where you feel like you can share because you're secure with what you
Yeah.
have and where you are
Yeah.
and you don't have that scarcity of I can't
Right.
lose this,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so it's
Because I
kind of the
don't,
other end of the curve I described.
that's exactly right. Because I don't feel the level, I'm a very competitive person, but I don't feel competition with the people in my community because that's something I want to nurture. Helping build that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I want people to feel able to ask those questions that they can't ask anywhere else, or they might not get a truthful answer somewhere else. Or, so there should I just don't want any judgment there. And I want everybody to like be kind and helping each other, regardless of where you are in the journey. And there's so many amazing individuals in there who have done hundreds of millions of dollars of deals that participate that, actually help other people.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned something previously as well. You mentioned storytelling and the power of
Mhm.
storytelling, and you brought up Simon Sinek, who is an awesome
How do
storyteller.
you say his last name? I was wondering if it was Cynic or Cynic. I don't know.
Cynic is how I've
Cynic.
always said it, so I hope
Okay.
I'm right as I'm
I
putting it
hope you're
out
right
there.
too. I hope you're right too.
But storytelling. So, and you mentioned that you recently told, a fairly emotional
Wow.
story on stage, right? Now, were you compelled to do that because are appreciating the power of storytelling and you wanted to bring, or I guess, why did you feel compelled to do that?
It's an important story and it's really core to why I do what I do. And I think people can relate to it
Hmm.
really well and could see themselves in there's the same shoes that I was in. The reason I had never told it before is because I knew for sure I couldn't say it without like ugly crying, not like a cute little like movie star
Yeah,
tear, right? Like, like, and I'm an ugly crier. So I was like, okay, I'm not ready for it because I couldn't even talk to like friends and family that already
sure,
knew the story about it without getting emotional. Like, even this
sure.
conversation, 6 months ago, I would have been like tearing up, right? And
Sure.
so, and it's about one of my daughters. So it's like my kids are involved in this story. So
Yeah.
that's like a whole different level, right? And but I know that it's a story that needs to be shared. And I know it's something that will help someone or touch someone or inspire somebody. And so that's why it needs to be told. I just didn't know that I was strong enough yet to tell it, which is
Hmm.
why I hadn't.
Hmm.
Um, but now that, like now I did it once and I didn't cry. So I'm like, all right, I got this, right? Like, so now I have confidence. And ever since I gave that speech, I've been like dreaming about it. I'm like, okay, this is how I'm going to say it next time. And
Yeah.
this is what where I want to put it. And like, now I want to move it up in the story. So I put a lot of thought into how I can help the people that I'm there to serve.
Yeah, it was an uncomfortable thing to do, but you recognize the value it would provide, right? And so you got over yourself and you made
It was
your
hard.
mission bigger than yourself, and you were able to
Yes.
do it. And so talk about, you told that story because storytelling is an incredibly powerful
Hmm.
way to communicate, right? I
Yeah,
mean, we as humans, we resonate with stories. And if you want to be an effective communicator, I think storytelling is an extremely
I
powerful
agree.
tool, as we said, right? So talk about the impact on the audience and maybe the conversations you had afterwards relative to before and other examples, right? How was it different? Could you tell people felt that they could relate to you more and you had a greater
Yes.
impact?
Yeah, easily. Because when you share stories, especially ones that are like vulnerable and about you from a stage, you for whatever reason, right? Like when you are speaking on a stage, the audience like puts you up here. And when you talk from this like vulnerable place and this human place, there's like a human connection that happens. And then it kind of like evens everything out, which is really what I'm after, right? Like I'm not trying to go out there so that I can be up here and everybody else can be here. I want all of us to be here together, interacting together. And so I think it lowers that level of apprehension, because I've had a lot of people, especially recently, come to me or message me on Instagram or Facebook or whatever and say like, I was at this conference you spoke at, but I was too nervous to come and say hi to you. And I was like, I want to meet you. I want to know everybody that's in the community or that
Mhm.
is following me on social. Like that's the whole reason I do this. I want to connect with you. And it really hurt my feelings actually, that multiple people have felt unapproachable or have felt I'm unapproachable, right? Like that
Mhm.
they feel like they can't approach me. And by telling stories, one, it's more memorable and way more interesting to listen to than like a bunch of statistics because like boring. We can read that on Google, right? But also it gives you just like this human touch that people feel comfortable coming and saying, oh my gosh, I felt that, or I had this similar thing happen to me. It's like that sentiment of you're not alone, right? And I had
Yep.
so many people come up to me and say like, that was the most incredible thing I've ever heard, or you were the best speaker all day because of that story. So there was definitely a lot. It was very positively received, which, just makes me more excited to do it the next time I do it and talk about it more. And maybe I do cry next time. I don't know, but I'm going to try not to.
And it's okay if you do because it's real, right? It's
Yeah.
authentic.
Yeah.
And that's just being vulnerable, and that's part
True.
of having that strong mindset to be willing to
True.
put yourself out there,
I'm going to
right?
try it. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't understand this problem, but like for us, like if we cry, our mascara runs, and that's not cute.
Yeah, I don't often wear mascara, so
Right.
I don't,
Right.
I don't quite
So
understand it, but
you don't understand. The
I
struggle is real,
I
Ken.
get it. I could get how that would be difficult.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Many
Well,
hard things in my life.
so the so storytelling, I mean, I love that because you were able to have such an impact for all the reasons that you said, right? The ability to really bring it down and kind of get to their level, right? The ability to really allow people to feel like they could relate to you,
Yeah.
right? And I
I
think
like to
that
think I don't get down to their level. I like to think I bring them up
you
to
bring
mine.
them up. That's a great way to put it. You bring them up to your level. You guys get
Yeah.
on the same level wherever
Yes.
you're
Get on the
meeting,
same
right?
level. We meet each other. Yes.
Yeah. And so I think the other the other interesting thing is, so you have that really compelling story and you're sharing that. And I think a lot of people would probably think, because I used to think this way of like, I don't really have that interesting of a story. I don't really
Yeah.
have the interesting a thing that's happened to me, but
Yeah.
everyone does. Everyone
Yeah.
has stories that we can all relate to because we all go through the same things in this like
Mm-hmm.
human existence, right? We all go
Yep.
through the same trials and tribulations, and I think the more that we can, like, another thing that one of my mentors always talks about, he's like, most people just stay surface level. Most people stay
Mm-hmm.
surface level. Whether
Yeah.
you're interviewing people, whether you're, just having a conversation with your friends, whatever it is, most people just stay surface. And I think the way that you get really deeper and create impact is through those great stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you look at like some of the best speakers, right? Like Steve Jobs was an incredible speaker because he
Mhm,
used storytelling as a way to convey his message to an audience, right?
mhm.
I don't know. Have you heard Ed Milet speak?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, yeah. He's
he
great.
is one of the best speakers I've ever heard speak. I spoke at a conference that he keynoted,
Mhm.
and I was like in tears through his
Yeah,
speech. It was so powerful and so moving and so good. And I'm actually speaking at another conference with him. And I know he's going to do the same speech, but it was so good. I just want to hear it all over again.
yeah.
And
It's
like that's what I
fantastic.
aspire to. That's what I want to do. I mean, not that I want people like bawling in the audience, but I want people to just feel so inspired and so moved to take action and do things. Like that's what my goal is.
I love it. I love it. And it's coming through in what you're doing. And you've had a huge impact today on this show,
Thank you.
sharing a ton of info about how to start being what a thought leader is, how to start being a thought leader, um how to alter your mindset,
Mm,
right? To be in a place where you feel that you deserve to be a thought leader
right.
and get over imposter syndrome. So a ton of value today. Before I let you leave though, you're not quite getting out of the hot seat yet. I want to
Okay.
take you through our keys to success
All right.
round. There's four
Let's do it.
questions I want to ask you.
Okay.
Now, you've been through this before,
I don't
so
remember any of the questions though.
that's good. That's
So,
good.
like literally
I
have no idea
I
what
could
you're
tell
gonna
I
ask.
had an impact. So thank you. So the first
It's
question
not that
is,
it's I've done so many podcasts that like they do these lightning rounds and I can't remember who belongs to which.
it's okay. I'm just going to make all the questions harder now.
It's not you, it's me, Kent. It's me.
I appreciate that. The first question is, these will all be easy for you. The first one
Okay.
is, put your investor hat on.
Okay.
Say you're an investor and you're looking to invest in someone's deal, invest with a
Yeah.
sponsor, right? And you could only ask them one question before you send your money. What is the one question that you would ask them?
I think I remembered my answer to this now that you're asking me. Because it's probably the same or similar question, which is like, tell me about a time things didn't go as planned and how you handled it.
Mhm.
So I want to know what the mistakes are.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I think that's a fantastic answer to that question. I think that, right, you learn more through your mistakes than you do through your wins. And
Yep.
anybody in real estate that hasn't had a tough go or had a mistake or something happen just hasn't been doing it long enough.
That or they're lying. And I don't like either of those two
There
reasons
you
that they
go.
don't have anything.
There you go. Second question is, what are you most proud of in your career?
Oh, in my career, I
Mhm.
think the community that I built, that's a different answer because I didn't have the community
Yeah,
last time. Yeah, the
love that.
community that I'm building.
Love that. What is a book that everybody should read?
Oh, there's a lot of them. So recently I have been rereading some of Malcolm Gladwell's books, Blink. Maybe I said that before too, because I think I was reading a different one then. But I also have started like re-peeking at Rocket Fuel as
Mhm.
well, which is a really good business book. There's so many, but I think those are like
Is
right now.
Rocket Fuel, is that an EOS book?
What does EOS mean?
Like the Entrepreneur Operating System? I think it was one of, like, is it Gino Wickman?
No,
No, okay, I've got it wrong.
it is Wickman and Winters. Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
See?
You know things.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
know some
actually know.
things.
I know. I'm only interested in it because I'm like, okay, I need to know who the visionary and the integrator is in everything I do for the rest of my life now.
And a whole nother topic for a whole different show,
Yeah,
but
different.
we're on a 6-month journey of implementing EOS
Are
within
you?
our business, and it's been
Oh, amazing.
fantastic. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that.
Yeah. And last but not least, what is your number one key to success?
Perseverance. So just keeping on going and going. Even when I quit, I just start again and quit again and then start again and just keep going. Grit.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And that is the best answer to that
Yeah,
question.
it's the
So
truth.
it is. It is. I mean, that's what separates successful people versus people that aren't, is the people that
Yeah.
aren't typically stopped just short of success, just gave up.
Yep. Gave up too quick.
You know, I love it, Vino. Thank you so much for coming on the show and providing so much value and teaching us about how to be thought leaders. And
Yes.
if people want to reach out to you, right, you've got so many great resources. Where should they go?
I mean, you can come to my community that we spent a lot of this call talking about, mastering multifamily with Veena Jetti. It's on Facebook, or you can follow me on like all the social media, Veena Jetti, VEENAJETTI.
And I will caution folks, because Vina is so popular that she actually, I've seen some like fake Vina accounts out
There's a
there.
lot. No, but you know what? I have the blue check now.
Oh,
So
there you
that
go.
one is my account. But yeah, they just keep popping up. And it's crazy because they pop up and then they have like 10 times the followers that I have. I'm like, how did you grow this account so fast of my stuff when no one is looking at my stuff?
There you go.
Yeah, but no, now I have a blue check. So that one is actually mine.
I love it. Well, Vina, we'll list all that stuff below so people can get all your resources and reach out to you. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of the day. And thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Kat. I appreciate you.